Hi, Dr. Anwar. How are you?
Good. How are you, Dr. Karate?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Good. So where are you today?
I am in Palo Alto. I'm talking from home here. So,
Okay, very good. And we're calling
yeah.
from San Diego, and our company's in Dallas. So
Okay.
yeah, everybody's
Perfect.
folks.
Everyone's got good weather.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Dallas though. Uh, good. So how are you faring these days with your personal life and practice?
Everything's good, I guess I can give a little intro for people on here who aren't familiar with me.
Sure.
Um, my full name is Dr. Kaveri Karhade. I'm a board certified dermatologist in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm originally from Michigan, actually. That's where I grew up, and University of Michigan is where I went to medical school. And I've been kind of bouncing around after that. It was over on the East Coast for residency, and was practicing in New
Mhm.
York for a bit before relocating here to the Bay Area. So I'm actually a relatively new transplant here. Um, what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis in my practice is a combination of general and cosmetic dermatology. So I do everything from acne, eczema, psoriasis, and skin cancer to more of the Botox fillers, injectables, lasers, and we also do a lot of hair transplants, liposuction, that kind of thing.
Okay, very good. And
Yeah.
how long have you been in the new practice?
I've been here, it'll be coming up on a year now in September.
Okay. And you're
Yeah.
part of a pretty large group, aren't you?
I am. It's a large private practice called Berman Skin Institute. There's many locations across the entire Bay Area.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
are you centralized for management and social media, or does each person sort of do that on their own?
I think it's variable. I think each person kind of does that on their own. I have a particular interest in social media and kind of exploring that aspect of it. So I tend to be more involved with that, I think, than a lot of the others. But I think it's, really whatever you want to do, which is
Okay.
great.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how many days are you in the clinic now?
Right now, I'm only in the clinic 3 days a week.
Okay.
As patient numbers ramp up with everything going on with COVID, that'll probably increase in the hopefully near future.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your journey. So you grew up in, did you say in the East Coast?
I grew up in Michigan,
Michigan.
actually. Yeah, yes. My parents are originally from India.
Okay.
I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
I went to Michigan State for undergrad, University of Michigan for medical school.
Okay.
So two rivals.
Yeah.
And then I took a year off during medical school to do some research in dermatology. I focused a lot on epidemiological research. And I did that at Brown. And then I went to Brown for my dermatology residency as well after completing a year of internship at NYU in internal medicine. And then I headed back to New York after residency, practiced there for a year, and then moved out to the West Coast.
The Bay Area. Okay. Very.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I know it takes a long time to finish school and residency, and dermatology is
Absolutely,
very competitive. Uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tell us during COVID, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? You mentioned a product and a chemical that you make at home for cleaning. Tell the audience about that.
Sure. Excuse me. Absolutely. So I heard about this product called Force of Nature from a friend of mine. I actually have it right here. But it's a product that I'll show it to you in a second. It's a product that basically makes a cleaning solution at home that contains sodium hypochlorite, which I wasn't very familiar with beforehand. But as I learned more about it, I learned that it's very effective against coronavirus, which is why I was particularly interested in this product initially. And the other thing about it is it's sustainable and easy to make at home, so I don't have to worry about running out. So it's this little gadget right here. You literally fill it up to the line with water. It plugs in, and you put these activator capsules that essentially contain salt and vinegar, and it hydrolyzes it so that you can make a cleaning solution that then you pour in a spray bottle and it lasts for 2 weeks. The reason I love it is because it's so safe for the skin. So, sodium hypochlorite is similar to bleach in terms of its efficacy in killing pathogens, which I love. But of course, putting bleach on everything isn't really the greatest idea, especially if you have kids around, pets around, all that stuff. But the sodium hypochlorite, this force of nature stuff, I can use on everything. So I don't have any qualms using it around my food in the kitchen, to clean all the items coming into our home. And so I've been really excited about that particular product with their main ingredient.
Right. So what they make is hypochlorous acid, um, which is actually made with by white blood cells as well.
Mm-hmm.
And our product has sodium hypochlorite. It's all pretty much part of the same class of products.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that how you got involved with Clean and asking about it and so on?
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I actually didn't know there was a skincare line that contained this product, the sodium hypochlorite. And when I found out about that, I was like, I have to learn a little bit more because there are so many skin conditions that um, essentially revolve around issues with bacteria on the skin or other pathogens on the skin. And so looking more into the Clean skincare line got me really interested in learning more about how it works. I'm amazed to see how effective it is against the bacteria that causes acne, and in a way that doesn't, require us using oral antibiotics or something like that. But it also can extend to other skin conditions like eczema, where people are prone to getting infections of the skin or other bacterial colonization of the skin. I'm absolutely floored that the sodium hypochlorite in the Clean skincare line kills 99.9% of the bacteria that causes acne, but also other common bacteria found on skin like Staph aureus. And the most exciting finding, I think, recently, given everything happening in the news, is how it's 99.9% effective against coronavirus. I mean, that's a big selling point. I love it because, especially working in healthcare where I'm seeing patients all day long, when I come home, it feels really good to be able to shower with a body wash that I know is killing any potential coronavirus particles that may have landed on me throughout the day.
Yeah, that was fortuitous. We ran the tests on coronavirus based on what the dermatologist wanted to know. When the epidemic started,
Yeah.
we got several dozen calls. Said, "Hey, does this kill coronavirus?" Coronavirus is
So you did that study.
envelope virus, so
Mm-hmm.
any type of soap would kill it, and they just wanted to see the data. So
Mm-hmm.
we commissioned two different labs, and it kills it in 15
That's
seconds.
amazing.
We can't make a claim that it cures COVID or anything like that, but it kills the virus
Absolutely.
in. And
Absolutely.
the dermatologists like it. And you could explain more whether you use hand sanitizers and what your feelings are about that, how people should, what precautions they should take with hand sanitizers.
Absolutely. So I mean, we use hand sanitizer a lot in clinic. I love especially the moisturizing hand sanitizers because if you're using it frequently, it can tend to dry the hands out a little bit. Um, you want to make sure to look for a sanitizer containing 60% or ideally more than that of alcohol in order to really be effective. I probably use hand sanitizer myself over 40 times in a day because of seeing so many patients. And so, one of the things that we talk about with skincare in terms of using hand sanitizer is also making sure to moisturize your hands frequently. Um, what I like to do is actually use an ointment based product at nighttime before I go to bed. Put that on my hand. So something like even plain Vaseline or Aquaphor, CeraVe Healing Ointment, Aveeno Cica Balm. They're all great. Basically something petrolatum based. I put it all over my hands. Sometimes I even put cotton gloves over to occlude it and really get that moisturizer to hydrate overnight. And usually by the morning, my hands are nice and moisturized. I do like to recommend washing hands every couple of hand sanitizer. So hand sanitizer is not really a good replacement for washing your hands. It's just
Yeah,
an addition.
right, right. And looking at your social media, you work out a lot, and you do yoga, and you have a very active lifestyle. So how are you managing and all that, and what are your fitness routines?
Oh, that's a really good question. And actually, that's another reason I was excited about the the clean skincare line, I actually came across a sample in my office a while ago that said sport wash. And because I like to work out a lot, I was intrigued by that because I don't see too many sport washes, especially around the dermatology clinic. So basically, I am pretty active. Pre-COVID, I was always at a fitness studio of some sort, so always at the gym. I love the Peloton. I love Rumble. I love SoulCycle, Orange Theory, Berries, you name it, I'm there. Since COVID, obviously, I've had to modify my routines a little bit. I'm still trying to do some yoga from home. There's so many amazing classes available online, which is great. Fit On is another app that I've been using, which has been a lot of fun. And I like to go outside for a jog or run, walk whenever possible. I'm still getting used to the intense sun that's here on the West Coast compared to when I was living in New York. So I'm trying to time my walks and runs outside for when the sun's going down. Um, so yes, that's pretty much what I do in terms of working out. And so I like to post a little bit about a skincare routine around working out because working out can lead to some skin issues. So a lot of people who work out a lot, sweating a lot, the sweat can get trapped in your hair follicles, in and around the hair follicles. That can lead to increased growth of certain skin bacteria or even yeast around the hair follicles, leading to something called folliculitis, or colloquially, some people call it fungal acne. But basically, you can get these little red bumps, maybe some pustules around the areas that you sweat, especially on the trunk. And so I think it's important to get out of wet or sweaty workout clothes as soon as possible after finishing a workout. It's a good idea to get showered up as soon as possible. And again, as I mentioned, I was excited about the Sport Wash because it's got this ingredient that can help with folliculitis prone skin because it helps with the bacteria that lives on the skin. And then I think it's important to, always be in clean, dry workout clothes whenever possible. So for people who do extended workouts, I actually think it's a good idea to change at some point midway through and just put on a fresh set of workout clothes to help stave off some of these skin issues.
Wait, change clothes in between a workout? You must work out for hours. I want
You
to
know
get out
what?
in 30 minutes.
Once you start, it's addicting. It's really addicting.
Yeah. So what's your favorite yoga app? But we've got a question from Sherry.
My favorite yoga app. I have been using yogadownload.com recently, and I absolutely love it. So I mentioned earlier, or yesterday, but I'm actually currently pregnant with my first child, and so I've had to modify my workout routines for that as well. Thank you. And so Yoga Download has some pretty great prenatal yoga that's still pretty rigorous. I find a lot of the prenatal workouts are not, rigorous enough for me, but Yoga Download has been really
So
helpful.
yoga download is rigorous enough for you.
Yes, I love it.
Okay. Okay. Very good. We've got a happy participant.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, your life will definitely change. So for the better. It's going to be
Absolutely. That's what everybody tells me. I'm not 100% sure what to expect yet, but I guess we'll roll with the punches, see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be a lot
yeah.
of fun.
So
Yeah.
we have a number of prominent dermatologists involved with us, and the women seem to have, 3, 4 kids, no problem, private practice.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
they
Yeah.
look amazing. You made a couple of points with exercise, which I want to point out. One, wet skin. The reason you want to get out of wet clothes is because wet skin tears easily, and so you can get more prone to infection. So that's why, especially high school athletes, who don't really shower that much, you want to get them in dry clothes. And the same
Absolutely.
with flip-flops, to just get your feet dry so they don't stay wet and moist and
Exactly.
infections.
Exactly.
The other is to jump into the shower very soon. And the reason for that is because staph bacteria, when they come on the skin, they sit there, and then every hour that passes by, they actually try to coalesce into a biofilm. So 12 hours later, they're really adherent. And it's equivalent to ketchup. If you rinse the dish right away, the ketchup comes off. But if you wait overnight, it's going to be really hard to get it off.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
And so bacteria, if it's left on way too long, creates biofilm, and biofilm is very hard to remove, and that's why the scrubbing is really necessary. But dermatologists don't like scrubbing. So tell me another segue as far as skincare. I know you try to avoid it.
Yeah. So scrubbing, and that's become very popular both in forms of like using a washcloth or a loofah in the shower, or using a physical exfoliant like the walnut shell scrubs or various other scrubs for the skin. Most dermatologists, myself included, don't recommend doing that because using a physical exfoliant, while it can help get some of the stuff that you want to get off of the skin, it also takes some of the good part of the skin off. So it can disrupt your skin microbiome a little bit. It can cause micro tears in the skin, which, as you were alluding to earlier, can predispose you to getting skin infections. And it causes an uneven impact to the skin. So depending on the pressure that you apply to various areas, it may cause more damage to the skin in some parts than others. So it leads to a very uneven result on your skin. So especially for delicate areas of the body like face, I absolutely don't recommend using physical scrubs. And for that reason, I think it's a better idea to use topicals that are gentle on the skin, but still help get rid of the oils and debris that you want to get rid of without harming the skin underlying.
Right. And you don't want to seal the germs or the oils or the
exactly
so it's really interesting because there are a lot of products out there that have physical rotation or scrub and so on, and so I found that derms don't really like that. I was kind of surprised that you use a hand sanitizer so often. So you could actually put the Clean On as your hand sanitizer. You can give that a shot.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Maybe
I'll size of that, and then it loads it on as a sanitizer. You walk around, and then after 2 or 3 applications, you can wash it. Then you've got your soap already built in, so then it'll suds up.
Oh, that is a great idea. I'm gonna give that a shot.
Yeah.
I love it because I don't like to use the hand sanitizer as often as I do. I do it for mostly time saving reasons, but I would rather wash my hands or just use something that's more gentle on the skin because, like I mentioned, using the hand sanitizer so frequently, and I have eczema myself, and so I always have to be very careful with not letting my skin dry out too much, which is why I then have to do this routine of moisturizing my hands frequently, especially at night. So I'd love to try something like that.
I'm going to jump back to your exercise. Do you wear a mask when you're outside and
that
running?
Is a great question. Yes, I think there's a lot of questions these days on what's okay in terms of mask wearing and what kinds of things that we should adhere to on a day-to-day basis. And it's of course different in every part of the country depending on, what's going on. But personally, I do wear a mask when I go outside. The current mandate in the county I'm in, which is Santa Clara County, is that you're required to wear a mask when social distancing isn't possible. I tend to, especially when I'm walking, wear a mask anyway, just in case. Helps me feel a little bit safer. I feel like you can never be too careful with that. There's been so many both actual studies and also physicians who have found this anecdotally, but wearing the mask doesn't reduce your ability to take in oxygen. It doesn't lead to buildup of carbon dioxide. There's really no downsides to wearing the mask. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but I'd rather be a little uncomfortable and be safer. Yeah. So pretty much whenever I go outside, I do wear a mask and try to also stick to the rules that we know. So social distancing, try not to spend too much time within vicinity of anybody else. So if I'm, going for a walk or run and I see that there's a big group of people, I try to take a different route or hang back a little bit or overtake them in order to, stay apart.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Wearing a mask long-term is absolutely no problem. As a cardiologist, and I probably spent easily 20,000 hours with a mask.
Wow.
It's no, over 10,000. I mean, it's just, there's no issue. We wear it for the whole case. And
that's amazing.
It's almost like, using Kleenex. You know, I mean, it's just,
That's amazing.
yeah, you know,
So
you
I'm curious to know what you would recommend in terms of wearing a surgical mask versus an N95 mask for, somebody who's just walking around out and about, or versus a homemade mask. Do you have an opinion on the mask?
well, I think the N95 masks, the way they're designed, they're very traumatic to the face. So
Hmm.
when we got on an airplane one time about 6 weeks ago, we had the
Hmm.
N95 mask.
Okay.
So on an airplane, yes. I think the higher the risk the situation is, you should have an N95 mask. And
Hmm.
N95 stands for that it blocks 95% of the 300 nanometer particles.
Hmm.
And actually, another material that really blocks 82% of the material is um, traditional bras, uh,
Mm.
female bras. So the others are a little bit less, but I think really almost any mask is good. And the masks are really, um, they're helpful for you not infecting somebody else. There's so many
Hmm.
of us that are probably carrying the virus that when you
Yeah.
sneeze, you're spreading it out. So it's most important to protect other people. That's why doctors wear a
Hmm.
mask all the time. You're
Hmm.
protecting others. And then,
Yeah,
when you
absolutely.
have a double barrier like that, I think it really amplifies it.
Okay.
Um, Healthcare workers, you probably see a lot of the face acne and breakdown and so on.
Hmm.
So I think
Hmm.
it's not really realistic, and the
Hmm.
technology really needs to improve. I think the other thing which is really
Yeah.
good are the shields.
Yeah, the face
You know,
shields are great.
yeah, face shields are good. So
Yeah.
I think any kind of
Yeah.
barrier is
Yeah.
going to block pretty much most of it, and it's going to really improve
Right.
improve your odds.
We're
Um,
seeing so much of the maskne, as we're calling it these days, the
sure.
mask-related acne. And I think a lot of it has to do with, especially if you wear a heavier mask like the N95, you end up just kind of, I wear it at work, and so it's like it just gets sweaty on your skin. And as we've already covered, that wet skin increases your chances of getting infections and also skin breakdown, bacteria overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, all the things.
Yeah, my wife's saying I've never seen anyone wearing a bra over their nose. Well, if people run out of masks, you could make a homemade mask out of an old bra, cut it in half, and put a bandana around it. I mean, I've seen some
I've
masks which actually have holes in it.
oh,
I saw something in a fishing shop. It's got
hmm.
like it's like of no use. To have these little holes in them. Um,
I saw a do-it-yourself tutorial on making a mask out of a sock, actually, where it's like you cut the heel part out, I think, and that's, I don't know, I don't remember the details of it, but
yeah,
lots of possibilities out there.
yeah. My daughter thinks it's a fashion statement, so she wants to create an accessory line, and
That's kind of cool. There's a lot of, you gotta match your mask to your outfit. Why not?
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I think it's another business that people uh,
Yeah,
can start. Yeah, as
yeah.
far as we're concerned, we try to avoid going into restaurants. If we're going to go
Okay.
somewhere, we sit outside. If I can't sit,
Yeah.
we'll take the food home. I think
Okay.
the big thing is just avoiding a lot of loud environments close, a lot of
Yeah.
face to face. In
Yeah.
our office, everybody walks in with a mask, and then they sit in separate rooms. Um, so we really try to practice, and then you have to know who people are hanging out with. We've got a
Yeah.
22-year-old, so if she's out and about with friends, we're kind of leery of who she's been hanging out
Yeah.
with, um,
Absolutely.
and so we're trying to be as cautious as possible. But you don't really know who the other person has been hanging around with, so
It's true. It's
that's a
true.
problem.
Now, are you seeing patients in outpatient clinic as well as inpatient currently? So what are your thoughts on exposure levels then, and how do you handle
Uh,
that?
I'm fortunately not in
Okay.
bedside medicine right now. I mean, at this
Okay.
time, we're
Okay.
pretty much just focused on the company.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I have a lot of colleagues that are practicing cardiology, and it's been pretty tough
Okay.
because one, there's a lot of stress on them for getting infections and so on. A lot of my
Yeah.
colleagues have, two, couples that are doctors, and they're both getting that exposure, and then there are a lot of issues at home, and then
Yeah.
their time has been really cut, their procedural time has been really cut, so there's a lot
Mm.
of up and down.
Wow. Yeah.
capacity-wise. So,
Yeah. I
doctor's
can
office,
imagine.
yeah, the overhead is really, pretty significant.
Mm,
So if you cut
sure.
back 20, 30, 50%, then it's
Right.
pretty,
Right.
pretty
Right.
difficult.
Exactly.
So it's really impacted the entire medical system, inpatient, outpatient. Everybody's pretty much impacted. I think
Mm-hmm.
the other unfortunate thing is that testing has not been really very good. It
Mm.
takes so long. It's very confusing. Not everybody has access
Yeah.
to it. And then
Exactly.
the quality of the testing is really poor. There are a lot of scams out there.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I didn't realize that
Yeah,
that was happening.
there are people that are, promoting the serology and doing the test
Mm.
repeatedly.
Mm.
I remember, one of our workers went home and he called the lab and they came and drew his blood. I go, no, they needed to do a nasal swab on you,
Yeah. Yeah.
the RNA. So there's a lot of confusion there with testing. Uh,
Sure. Yeah,
yeah.
I can see that.
So
They had some free testing here in Palo Alto for about a week or so. They had just, you could go to the city hall and get your test and all that. So that was pretty cool.
yeah,
Um,
and did you get it done? Or
I actually didn't.
did not?
Um, I did not because of just with being pregnant, I'm being a little bit extra careful right now. And part of me was like, well, that's going to be they had everybody waiting in the same area outside. And I was just
Right,
like, well, I don't really want to be waiting for 40 minutes in the
right.
in a group of a lot of
Yeah.
people. But
Testing in the data that's coming out is really pretty confusing.
mm,
Um, the number of cases are cumulative, and it just goes to the sky. But of
sure.
those, many of those recover. Uh,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
3 weeks, a positive test,
Yeah.
99% of them recover.
Yeah.
Um, so they become, but they're continually part of the accumulation.
Yeah.
Um, and that's confusing. The other is
Yeah.
that on death certificates, even if it's a secondary, tertiary, quaternary cause or potentially there, it's
Mm,
marked as a COVID case. And in Texas, if you're
okay.
exposed to somebody with COVID, and even with a negative test, with one or two symptoms, you're counted as a possible COVID case. So it's
Okay.
very, very
Okay.
liberal. The positivity is very, very liberal, and
Okay.
I think it's creating a lot of fear. I mean, it's a
Confusion
terrible
and fear,
disease. We don't want
absolutely.
to get it, but it's
Yeah,
creating a lot of fear, and we've got to put it in the
absolutely.
perspective.
And
And
I think it's just really hard for people to figure out what's okay to do. Like I was just reading an article this morning about whether beaches are okay because beaches are outdoors, and if
yeah,
you're, technically staying a little bit apart from other people, shouldn't you be okay? At the same time, you see those images of thousands of people on the beach, and you're thinking, "Oh, there's got to be some sort of spread going on there." So I think it's a difficult time, especially as the summer comes
yeah,
around. People want to get out and about and do things, and it's
sure.
hard to really know what's safe and what's not.
How many people do you know with COVID in your cohort?
Oh, I think I don't know too many. I mean, I probably know about 5 people total who have contracted coronavirus and developed COVID. Luckily, everybody's done fine. I know a few people who are relatives or in other connections, but not people that I know personally who have also suffered from COVID. Luckily, I don't know anybody who's had any significant negative consequences from COVID.
Yeah.
How about you? I'm
Yeah,
curious.
we've had about 10 that we know
Wow.
uh, of
Okay.
cases.
Okay.
Um, my friends are a little older than yours, so they get a little bit sicker. One ended up in the hospital
Yeah.
for 4 days.
Oh, geez.
She did not get on the ventilator. She was given
Okay.
convalescent plasma and got
Okay.
very close to
Good.
being intubated.
Oh,
And
geez.
everybody else has been managed as an outpatient.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's all these people all I think they got it through socialization. A couple went to a
Mm-hmm.
party, one went to
Mm-hmm.
an office, a couple
Mm-hmm.
went to a bar, and
Yeah.
and then the whole family got it. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
socialization is really, the social distancing is it really means social distancing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. And I think people, especially here in California, where until recently cases, we had been doing a pretty good job of it. I think people kind of feel like we did so well, and now people are starting to get a little bit lax about things. And so we're unfortunately seeing that
yeah.
rise
And
in cases.
it's very regional in the south part of San Diego. It's
Oh, okay.
pretty bad.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in the lower socioeconomic classes groups,
Yeah.
more congestion, more
Mm-hmm.
they're more social. They have to work. They have to live with
Yeah,
more people in one setting. I think there's going to be more.
absolutely.
Then there are also some people probably coming in from Mexico that
Yeah.
overwhelm some of the hospitals near the border.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's very regional. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And I'm not sure the vaccine uh, is going to really be the panacea. I think there's going to be a lot of controversy about that as well. So I think we're in it for a
Yeah.
good 18 to 24 months. Yeah.
I agree
So
with that. I think that between the not knowing when the vaccine is going to come out, but even then, I think they're finding that people who are developing antibodies, the antibodies are only effective for a couple of months after getting it. After that point, you may be susceptible to the virus again. And then the other issue is all the virus mutations and the various strains that may be coming up. Maybe it's going to be like the flu vaccine that only covers 60% of the strains out there, so it's pretty good, but not a surefire way to ensure that you don't get COVID. So I think there's going to be a lot of uncertainty around that.
great. So let's change the topic. You said you do a lot on social media, and
Yeah.
you've got a big following, which is awesome, and you probably have very educated clientele as well. So how do you navigate that? And then you've got these influencers as well that are selling products and or
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that are not MDs that are doing some of the things that you all are doing. So how are you navigating all this, and what are your recommendations for consumers out there?
That is a great question. And that is actually the exact reason I started getting involved with social media in the first place. So, when I first joined Instagram, just kind of as a consumer myself, I realized that, you know, the good and bad part about social media is that anyone can say anything they want. And so it's good because you have dissemination of information, but that can sometimes be a little bit tricky to navigate because um, sometimes recommendations that are made across the internet may or may not be backed by science. And so that's where I saw myself fitting in, having a role on social media. The reason I started a professional account and that I'm active on almost a daily basis is because I'm trying to make sure to disseminate accurate scientific information. I feel like I have a responsibility to my patients, especially in today's world when so many people are on social media, getting information from social media, to be a voice that can talk about what we know scientifically. I think that's important because there's just so many sources of information out there. And I see that coming across in all of the questions I get, the comments that I see on my posts. I'm actually really surprised about some of the information and maybe misinformation that's out there. So I really like to be able to address that through little educational videos, educational posts, and tips and tricks. I also think it's a good opportunity to um, basically show what I do on a day-to-day basis to people out there. I mean, I think in the past, like for example, if I were to look at a cardiologist like yourself, I have a sense of what you do, but on a day-to-day basis, I don't know exactly what procedures you're doing or what kinds of patients you're seeing, that kind of thing. And I think people like having a little window into the life of a doctor. So that's another reason that I'm active on social media.
Yeah. So when you get involved in a discussion, how do you thicken your skin not to respond? I mean, I just find myself, oh, I want to write something, and then I just delete it and I don't respond because you get in that cascade of tit for really.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, I think that there's a lot of, so I don't like to view social media as a like, I know something better than you know, but rather that we can kind of all learn from each other. So sometimes I'll come across things that I may not have been familiar with, and I'm open to learning more about that. Um, that being said, I think, people like board certified dermatologists are kind of the experts on the scientific aspect of what's going on with your skin. And so I feel like the more and more people that we get from the medical side of things, like there's more and more dermatologists joining Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and everything every day. And so a lot of us kind of work together to make sure that we're disseminating the same kind of messages out there. And I think eventually over time, what that will lead to is there being a bigger voice of science available to the public.
Are you on TikTok as well?
I am, yes.
Okay. So which one do you have a more bigger following on?
Technically TikTok, actually, I think just because TikTok is new, I wish I had joined the Instagram game a little bit earlier than I did. But as everybody knows, the algorithm has changed so much that it's become a little bit harder to get your content exposed to all of your followers. TikTok is still in its earlier stages, especially in the United States. And so my following on TikTok has definitely grown a little bit more exponentially just because of that. I think they're very different though. TikTok is a good way to get quick little snippets of messages to a largely younger population, whereas I feel like I can leave larger, more in-depth pieces of information over Instagram. So
Okay.
I kind of like to use them to complement each other a little bit.
Okay. So I heard yesterday that the U.S. may block TikTok.
I heard about
Yeah.
that too, and I'm
Yeah.
really sad about that. I hope that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just on a selfish note, I'm sure there's all kinds of good reasons for it, but personally, I really hope that doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
we've been approached by a number of derms on TikTok. They like our product. Hey, we want to do a review, and
Yeah,
I look at their TikTok, and they've got like I don't know 20,000, a lot of followers. You know, to me, it's
yeah.
like a lot. Um,
I don't know if you've spent much time on TikTok, but it
no,
is an addicting platform.
it's a what?
It's very addicting just
Very
to
addictive.
watch the
Oh my
videos.
gosh. Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
Sherry,
embarrassed to
I
admit
want to
that I
go on
can
TikTok.
spend 2 hours on TikTok without batting an eyelid.
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. Hey, Tana, let's send Dr. Karate some products so she can do some TikTok videos before
Oh,
TikTok.
absolutely. I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Um, so do you get in heated discussions on social media? How do you you just see something blatantly bad out there or somebody attacks you? How do you respond to that? Do you ignore it? Do you respond
Mm.
to it? Do you direct message them? What's the best attitude?
That is like a very good question. I fortunately have not thus far been too, I haven't really experienced too much of a negative attack, which I think probably the first time that happens because it's bound to happen at some point. I'm not quite sure exactly how I'd respond to that, but I really try to take the approach that, okay, if somebody says something I don't agree with, I try hard not to turn it into a, no, you're wrong
Yeah,
situation. I try to say, okay, I wonder why they think that. They've probably gotten this information from somebody else. So I try to address it in a, okay, there's multiple different ways to look at most things, for example. So I guess a good example would be a lot of people ask about using tea tree oil or witch hazel for their acne. And there may be some, small studies showing mild efficacy of tea tree oil for various yeast on the skin, for various bacteria on the skin. But the way I like to look at it is there's so many more efficacious things out there that I don't really see a need for using those. Like it's probably not going to hurt you, but wouldn't you rather spend your money on something that's going to help you more?
mm,
So I try to approach it from that perspective.
okay. So you just you don't get emotionally entangled with it.
I try not to. I also try to remember that, I'm a professional. I'm using Instagram, which is a social space, but I'm on it in the setting of being a professional. And so as I would, that I didn't necessarily agree with, I would try to refrain from any sort of personal attacks or anything like that.
Okay. All right. So very, very good information. I may have to text you on how to respond to certain things because there's certain and
Sure,
some
anytime.
people are just really, really good at it. Our social media team, they're very polished, hands
Yeah,
TV, and they
yeah,
just know how to say the right thing at the right time.
exactly.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
thing that I've had to be very careful about is, being a social space and being a physician, I can't dispense medical advice over Instagram. So I get lots and lots of questions about, hey, can you look at my skin and tell me what products I should use or whatever? And that's a very gray area. So I pretty much tell everybody, I'm sorry, you have to come in for a consultation, make a telederm consultation, whatever you need to do, but I can't just give you, advice over
Yeah.
Instagram. There's just too many variables.
Yeah. Very, very good advice. So tell us your face routine.
Yeah.
What do you do for yourself?
Sure, that's a great question. And I talk about this a lot on my Instagram and TikTok. Basically, I am a minimalist. So I'm not one of those people who has 15 products in my skincare routine. I try to keep it as simple as possible. Because I tend to have drier skin, I stay away from too many AHA or BHA containing products because I find that they dry my
What
skin
is
out more.
AHA and BHA?
So the alpha hydroxy acids and the beta hydroxy acids. So
Okay.
I'm talking about ingredients like glycolic acid, salicylic acid, lactic acid. Those are very good for brightening for some people. For me, I use them very sparingly because they tend to dry my skin out. So I try to focus in the morning I split my routine into a morning routine and an evening routine. So my morning skincare routine consists of a gentle cleanser. Currently, I've been using just a very gentle facial cleanser from Epionce, but there's lots of good brands out there that I really like. Um, I sometimes moisturize in the morning, depending on how dry my skin is or not. Despite having relatively dry underlying skin, I tend to also get shiny pretty quickly in the day. So I try to minimize the amount of hydration I'm putting on my skin in the morning. So after I wash with a gentle cleanser, I put some sunscreen on, either a tinted sunscreen or a non-tinted sunscreen. I'm a bigger fan of mineral sunscreens than I am chemical
What brand
sunscreen.
of sunscreen do you use? Well,
Currently,
yeah.
yeah, currently I've been using the Isden Aerofotona Actinica sunscreen.
I'm sorry, come again on that. What was that?
It's by Isden, which is a Spanish brand. They've expanded into the US. They have a sunscreen called Aerofotona Actinica that I'm not actually sure of the ingredient that helps to reverse DNA damage, but it basically helps to reverse some of the processes
Okay.
related to sun exposure over time. And it's a completely mineral sunscreen. So I prefer mineral sunscreens over chemical sunscreens.
So explain mineral and chemical.
Sure. So mineral sunscreens are physical blockers, which means they reflect UV light. Chemical sunscreens are absorbed into the skin and they basically absorb the UV radiation. So the reason a lot of people have preferred chemical sunscreens in the past is because traditionally the chemical sunscreens are a little bit more cosmetically elegant. They kind of blend in a little bit easier. They don't have that sticky, tacky feel, whereas physical sunscreens tend to give you kind of that white residue. Now, a lot of the companies have found ways to make the physical sunscreens more cosmetically elegant. So there's tinted versions of them. There's versions that kind of melt into the skin a little bit easier. And so I think in today's world, using a mineral sunscreen is a little bit easier. I do struggle with that aspect, though. Being somebody of a darker skin type myself, I find that the physical sunscreens frequently leave that white residue. So I have to really look for the right one to find one that works well with my skin tone.
Okay. And so that's your
Yeah.
morning routine.
hmm And so after that, I would put on, excuse me, any makeup if I was going to do that. Otherwise, I would just leave it at the sunscreen. And then my evening routine is I use a micellar water to remove any makeup. Um, and then I use a cleanser. So I'll use the same gentle cleanser again. On the rare occasion that I use a glycolic acid containing cleanser, I use the SkinCeuticals. Um, I forget the exact name of it, but it's got a 8% glycolic acid face wash that I'll use. And then I put on a hyaluronic acid serum. So currently I've been using the Vichy Mineral 89. But again, there's lots of hyaluronic acid serums that are pretty good. After that, I followed up with a moisturizer. So currently I've been using the Facial Renewal Cream by Epionce. And then other key, so sunscreen in the morning is key. And the other key to a good skincare routine, which I try to do in the evening, is a retinoid. So I use a compounded prescription strength retinoid in the evenings, not currently because of pregnancy, but outside of pregnancy. It does dry my skin out a little bit, so I have to be very careful with the amount that I use and how frequently I use it. But really, the takeaway points I would say for my skincare routine are SPF 30 or greater in the morning and the retinoid at night.
So people can do a telemedicine consult with you, and you can give them all the the regimen and get them all.
Absolutely. Only in the state of California, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to really invest in your skin, though. I mean, especially in California.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Right. Okay, very, very good. What are your feelings with the younger generation getting toxins and fillers? Some of the companies are really pushing the 20-year-olds to get neurotoxins.
That is a good question. So the way I look at it, there's a role for injectables for younger people, but typically for different reasons than for older people. So I think people in their 20s, maybe early 30s, are really looking to maybe enhance various facial features, whereas people in their 50s and above might be looking to reverse some of the signs of aging. And what I mean by that is a lot of the injectables I do for my younger patients are things like, a liquid rhinoplasty, or basically helping to straighten out the nose using filler, or giving you more enhanced cheekbones or a jawline. And so those kinds of things are what I find my younger patients focusing on. I do get a lot of questions about Botox and when the right age to start that is. And actually, I have a post from, I think, a couple weeks back that kind of breaks down by decade what kinds of procedures you should be thinking about. But I hesitate to do toxins for my younger patients. And the reason is because really you don't need it until you're starting to get to the point where you're noticing fine lines at rest. Everybody's got lines, dynamic wrinkles when they make a facial expression. That's just part of being human. I mean, babies have that. Babies have a nasolabial fold and, lines on their forehead when they raise their eyebrows. And so we don't need to get rid of that. I'm a less is more type of person, and I like the natural look. I don't like to create frozen people. And so I think that for somebody who's in their early 20s, for the most part, unless you happen to have deeper lines already, it's not necessary. Yeah. I also think that there's some risks of, starting Botox when you're in your early 20s and just doing it regularly for the rest of your life, because it's got to lead to some muscle atrophy if you're just never using those muscles. And then, if your muscles are atrophying, then you might end up with like that really thin appearance on your forehead, for example. That being said, I think by the late 20s, early 30s is when I like to introduce at least small amounts of toxin to my patients to help smooth out those fine lines that otherwise could become deeper set.
Okay. So lastly, I want to go over nutrition. And what kind of nutrition before you were pregnant do you follow, and how do you advise people to use nutrition to make their skin look better? I've got my own philosophy about that.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear that, actually. I'll tell you what I think, and then I would love to hear from you. So just in general, as a physician in general, I recommend people follow a healthy diet full of lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, all of that stuff. I get a lot of questions about diet and acne, and there actually is some research suggesting that things like dairy, especially skim milk, whey protein, and things like that can increase your susceptibility to acne. The way I think about it personally is also influenced by my background being Indian and being exposed to Ayurveda, which is the Indian traditional medicine. That school of thought is basically that diet can impact your systemic inflammation and your overall inflammatory response. And so even though I may not be able to say 100% that chocolate causes acne or French fries cause acne, if you have a diet full of highly processed fatty foods, high sugar diets, could that lead to increased systemic inflammation that manifests in one way as acne? Absolutely. So from that perspective, I think it's not necessarily about staying away from specific foods or focusing on specific foods, but rather just focusing on a healthy diet in general.
Okay. Yeah. So from the cardiologist standpoint, a few things. One, I think any food that increases your insulin output, so it has has a lot of sugar, um, is, you know, you want to have that in moderation and before 5 o'clock and certainly before 7 p.m. I try to tell my patients to really not eat after 7 o'clock or have several hours of food prior to going to sleep. And I'm a big believer in the 15-hour fast.
Okay.
And so if you're going to eat late at 10 o'clock, well, your 15 hours the next day is over at 1 o'clock. So that's kind of miserable. So if you eat at 6 p.m., and then your 15 hours is going to be up at 9 a.m.
Interesting. Okay.
And what happens with that 15 hours, you'll use up all your liver glycogen, you'll get hungry, and if you can muscle through that, then you might get into the ketones. So instead of counting a bunch of calories and really being miserable all day long, I say, listen, go start doing a 15-hour fast after your last meal at night and start the clock. And if you stopped eating at 6 o'clock, the next day it's 9 o'clock. And if you can go a little bit longer, that's fine. We're designed to go without food, without calories for days. So, you know, you can go, you know, a week or 10 days without any calories. And I don't advocate that, but you can. So water, you need more often.
So do you recommend sticking to the kind of 15-hour fasting after your last meal a day, just kind of as a general lifestyle? That's really interesting.
If we've had the 4th of July and so on, especially if it, you know, bad food, drinks, and dessert, then I'll do 15-hour the next day, and I'm just back to normal. And if I've like really been on vacation, if I do 2 or 3 days of 15 hours, I pretty much normalize. That works for me. So if you do 15 hours 2 or 3 days in a row and you're not seeing a benefit of that, then you're maybe overeating. There's some other adjustments that you need to do. So that's for me, that's the easiest thing. I don't have to really be guilty about what I did. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to eat whatever.
Yeah. I got to try that. I'm going to try that.
Well, you don't really, I mean, I wouldn't with your being pregnant, I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
So that just works for me. But on top of that, if you add a walk and so on, you can really get your sugar down. So if you've got a bunch of sugar on board, I notice it myself, like if I'm going to do an Instagram live, and I kind of ate last night, I go, oh God, I'm not going to look good. You know, I'm going to be puffy. So if you want to look good on TV, I said, just do a 15-hour fast. You're going to have less fluid on board. As the glycogen and sugar and all that goes out of your body, you're going to diurese. Your face is going to be less puffy. So
yeah, I love that. This is such a great tip.
The other is the waist size. The waist size is the single best measurement in medicine. So in men over 40 inches, higher risk of death, cancer, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. In women over 37 inches at the waist, at the belly button, higher risk of multiple cancers, stroke, heart disease, inflammation, et cetera. So the abdominal girth is really very much correlated to the amount of liver fat that we carry. So that's really the fountain of inflammation is the liver and excessive body fat. And there's some nuances in the Indian population that they could actually be pretty skinny but still have a lot of internal visceral fat.
Yeah.
That's probably more genetic and hereditary. But in general, I think this 15-hour fast or high protein diets will help you, flush out a lot of those. And I think you can make people's skin look better too.
I love that.
Yeah. Listen, it was great chatting with you. We're going to follow you on Instagram and
perfect.
Check out TikTok now.
Don't get addicted.
Right,
Warning you.
Right.
Oh, geez. Well, it was really, really nice chatting with you too. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
We learned a ton, and we'll be in touch with you and hopefully bring you on again.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good luck with the pregnancy.
Thank you.
Exciting time. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Take care.